So in this review, we're looking at the Unit 1 exam, and we're going to be focusing on things like price ceilings and price floors. This is a little bit more complicated material, so I want you guys to make sure you understand what's going on. Before we get to price ceilings and price floors, let's talk about consumer and producer surplus. Now, right here we have our PQSD, nice and easy. We know that where will our price and quantity be? Which is called equilibrium. And is equilibrium a good thing or a bad thing? Right, so here's our equilibrium quantity and our equilibrium price. So the next thing that we're going to do is we realize at this price, PE, we know that people up, hold on one second. We know that people up here on the demand curve would actually pay this price for this quantity down here. However, how much are they actually paying? They're paying right here at PE, which means even though they pay up here, they're only spending this much money, which means they're getting what? Not just benefit, but surplus benefit, extra benefit. They're not paying for the same value they're getting, they're paying a lot less. So that's a gain for trade, which means they get all this surplus benefit. But we also have people who are right here. They would pay this price, and they would buy up to this quantity, but they're only paying this price right here, so they get all this benefit. And here, and so forth, which means, what is this area I'm shading in now called? This is our consumer surplus, okay? That's our consumer surplus. And we're happy when our consumer surplus is maximized. That's all the extra benefit you can get within a market. On the other hand, we also have things like the consumer surplus. We know that at this price right here, people would demand this quantity. So they take this low price, except what price are they able to sell it for? Much higher, up here, which means they get all this extra benefit every time they sell it. And people, this quantity right here to here, they would like to sell, or they could sell it for at this price here, but they're actually selling for this high price up here. And so on and so forth until we get this whole area right here, which we call our what? Producer surplus. And this market, as is, we would call it what? Efficient. As in all the surplus that we can have is maximized. So we're very happy. There's no extra gains from trade to be made in this market. It is fully maximized. So make sure you know what your consumer and producer surplus. It's the difference between the price people are willing to pay. For example, they might be willing to pay a number up here. Here, I'll use this. They might be willing to pay up here, this price, but what price do they pay? A much lower one, and they gain a lot of extra benefit. Is that understood? And the same with producer surplus. They might be willing to accept this price right here, but the price they're actually paying or getting is much higher. Therefore, they get a bunch of extra surplus. Okay, everyone understand? So that's your consumer and producer surplus. Don't forget. But what happens if our market is not synchronized? It is
inefficient.
Inefficient. Very good. Put your stuff down. I'm recording. So, what is this?
This what does want to know something about data invoices?
Oh, did she want them?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. So we know an inefficient market is one where the producer here and consumer surplus up here are what? Fully filled in. If they're not fully filled in, we would have a market that has a what?
Dead weight loss.
Dead weight loss. And is that efficient?
No.
Dead weight loss means no one's getting a gain. And what is an example of a dead weight loss? What could cause dead weight loss?
A price ceiling, price floor, price ceiling.
Well, price ceiling or a price floor. Which one is it?
Floor.
Correct answer is
Ceiling.
The correct answer is both. Both will cause dead weight loss.
Don't taxes cause
Taxes, quotas, externalities, lots of things. So we're going to talk about inefficient markets and how we maybe can fix them or why they're a bad idea. So let's go ahead and look at our price ceilings and our price floors. So we start with our PQSD. We have our equilibrium right here. Our revenue and our surpluses are maximized. But let's go ahead and put some price ceilings and price floors on this. All right, what's an example of a price floor that we could talk about? Rent. Not rent. We have agriculture. What's another price floor? Remember, floors do what? An effective price floor will take equilibrium and move it up. Floors keep you up. What do ceilings do? Push you down. Okay? So price floor is going to do an effective price floor. What would an ineffective price floor do? Below equilibrium. Therefore, your market would be at equilibrium, and therefore would be efficient. So an effective price floor would bring the price up. What's an example of something that brings the price of a resource up? Another one would be minimum wage. So let's go ahead and say we're going to have our price, and we're going to call it minimum wage, and it's going to be right here. So let's go ahead and see what would happen. We always go across. How much labor would people demand with this minimum wage? They would demand, this would be the quantity demanded, which is less, and this is our quantity equilibrium, less or more. We would demand less at a higher price, but suppliers, laborers, would want to give more or less labor. Yes, more. Up here, they'd supply this much labor, and that would leave us with a what? A surplus of labor. We have all this labor people want to provide, but this is all that people want to buy at this price, which means we'll have a surplus. Price floors will give you a what, no matter what? Surplus. And because there's a surplus, this would lead to higher rates of unemployment. Very good. It also leads to another issue. Let's go ahead and fill in our surpluses. All right? Since this is our new price, we have people who would buy it for up here and all the way down. Here's our new consumer surplus. Who benefits, though? Price floor benefits who? The sellers. Because you might go, oh, well, they would get this whole area right here. Remember, this is our quantity, so will anything happen on the other side of it? No, nothing should be going on over there. So we go ahead and we color this whole area in, except now that the price is higher, remember, this was an equilibrium price. People would sell for here, but what price are they going to get? Up here. Even people here will get a higher price, which means the consumer surplus is now what? It's not short. No, it's actually, I'm sorry, the producer surplus, the red, is what? It's bigger, okay? They lost this area right here, but they gained this whole area, which is a large increase. However, what else has happened? Right, if you guys look at this little area right here, who gets this area? No one does, and that is our what? Dead weight loss. Easy enough? Okay, let's go ahead and try it a slightly different way. What do you think we're going to use now? All right, a price ceiling. And we know that price ceilings do what?
keep us down.
They keep prices down. Okay? So what's an example of something that has price ceilings?
Rent.
We can have rent controls. So you want to keep rents down. All right, so let's go ahead and say there's some kind of rent control. It's going to take price from here and move it, let's say, right there, which means how many apartments will be supplied? Here's our quantity supplied, and we go to our quantity demanded, which is going to be much larger, which causes a what?
Shortage.
A shortage. This is how much people are supplying. Here's how much people want. There won't be enough. You will get a shortage. Does that make sense? All right. Do you need me to cover producer and consumer surplus again?
Wait, I don't understand where the dead weight loss.
Okay, very good. So you see, this is our quantity supply. At that quantity, how much would people? What price would people be willing to pay just to get to that quantity? Okay, so that's the price that they would pay to get there. I mean, it's just like a quota. Okay, so how do we fill this in? All right, let's go ahead with suppliers. Who wins in this situation, suppliers or consumers? Consumers. So suppliers, they're gonna, here's their new price. This is gonna be our price, this was a ceiling. And so here's their consumer surplus. So suppliers are unhappy. But what about who is kind of happy? Consumers, except are all consumers happy? No, some, what's gonna happen to them? They're not gonna get a part, there's a shortage. So they're gonna get all this area, and you might go, ooh, they actually should get up to here too, except is that all they're getting? They actually get to down here as well, okay? Do you guys understand your, oh, and by the way, what have I forgot to shade in? Our dead weight loss, which is going to be right here. Make sense? Everyone's happy, makes a lot of sense. All right, let's go ahead and just do one more, which I want you guys to draw out. I'm going to give you a little bit of a problem. All right, so we're going to draw your PQSD, give me your equilibriums. All right, and what do you guys want to do? A price floor, price ceiling? Price floor. Price floor is going to bring wages or whatever price, let's say farm prices. They bring prices up. So we're going to have our price floor, and I'm going to call it price floor 1. It's right here. Tell me what happens to the quantity demanded at that price. It will what? Decrease. What will happen to the quantity supplied?
Increase.
And you will end up with a what? Surplus. So our quantity demanded is here. This is how much people will buy. Our quantity supplied, this is how much will be offered for sale. And this area right here, that is our surplus. But what about if I went ahead and went, I don't know, I think the price is still too low. So I make a price floor 2 right here. Let me tell you some things that would happen if I did that. Demand would not change. Demand would not shrink. The quantity demanded, would there be less quantity demanded? Yes. What else? A larger quantity supplied. So we're going to go ahead and find our quantity demanded for 2 here. And then we go all the way over to here. There's our quantity supplied. And we would end up with what? Yes? A larger dead weight loss. Also, because here's our original dead weight loss. Our dead weight loss now would be what? All this extra area here, too. We have a very big dead weight loss. Less consumer surplus?
More surplus.
More producer surplus? We're starting to make it get what? We're starting to kind of get smaller there. Also, you would have a larger what? A larger surplus. Altogether, a larger surplus. Our consumer surplus is now going to be this whole area. It's going to be very large. Our producers, I'm sorry, I did that totally wrong. Okay, since the price is up there now, this would be our producer surplus. Okay, and what happened to our consumer surplus? It's going to be right here in this small little corner. Sorry about that little mistake. So you guys understand? Would it make things better or worse? Larger surplus, larger dead weight loss. We get a lot more quantity supplied and a lot less quantity demanded. that would be bad. So do you guys have any more questions about consumer and producer surplus? What the definition is, how it works, how it can be measured? Okay, there's one last thing I want to go over with you guys, okay? If you're a business, what do you want to maximize? Not so, okay, you want to maximize your profits, very good. But you would also, you can maximize your profits by maximizing your what? Not your quantity supplied, not necessarily how much you sell.
Producer surplus?
Right, okay? You want to increase your producer surplus. So you could sell things like this chart does, and this is a real easy simplification, because this is showing what? Showing producer surplus if we're selling a good for a what?
Fixed price.
For a single fixed price. But is that how everything works? Sometimes people pay different prices for the same product. What do we call it when you try to get people to pay different prices for the same product? Not price
Elasticity.
differentiation. Very good. Price discrimination. Price discrimination is saying, hey, there's this guy who is paying right here, but I know he would pay up to there. And what do I want to do? I want to get him to do what? Pay more. So I go ahead and find a way to get him to pay more. And I can take this surplus. And then I take this guy. And I want him to pay more. I get him to pay more. And even the guys way up here and right here, I get them to pay more. Until I start eating up more and more of what? The consumer surplus. Now you see I went ahead and made certain prices right here. What do we call it if I found a way to charge the exact highest price to every single person in the market, making my produced surplus look like this? That's called, it's not elasticity.
Total consumer producer surplus.
It's not called total. What kind of price discrimination would this be? This would be perfect price discrimination. When I found a way to eat up all of the consumer surplus, get everyone to pay the max amount they'd be willing to pay, I will increase my producer surplus. And that's called perfect price discrimination. Is that a reality? No, but in theory, that's what it would do. It's a theoretical construct called perfect price discrimination, where I can eat up this whole thing here. Okay? Any questions about price discrimination?
Like when we went over this the first time, you said that example of like how McDonald's burgers can cost like different prices in different areas.
Yes.
So if like say a Big Mac was fixed at one national price, would it like produce results like that?
Well, what would a Big Mac do? Well, a Big Mac is set, and let's say they only sold one sandwich. And that was a little different product too, so it's slightly different construct. But there would be the one price that would go over here. And then what benefit would consumers get? They would get all of this area, okay? So if it was just a Big Mac and McDonald's only sold Big Macs, this is what that would look like. Now, if they found a way to see you and go, all right, this guy's really hungry and really rich. He would pay 20 bucks for a Big Mac. And then they could find her and go, she would pay $15.75. And for every single price they could change it, then it would look like it did where the whole thing was red. If they could find a perfect way to do that. Now, is there a perfect way to do that? No, there isn't. But understand that if there was a theoretical way to get the exact last penny out of every single one of you for that Big Mac, that would be perfect price discrimination. And you would fill the entire consumer surplus.
Auctions do that?
Auctions are a good way of trying to show that, except you kind of only sell one product. And that's about it. And it's also competitive, so it's slightly different, but it's a much better example of getting people is high. Because that one person who buys it, like let's say you go up to 20 bucks, that guy might have been willing to go to 30. So how do I get that extra 10? Because he's still got a surplus. Okay? So that's it for producer or price ceilings and price floors. Don't forget your producer and consumer surplus. Study it again, practice problems, make sure you understand it. And hopefully you can do the basic like 5th grade geometry to solve for it if it asks you for the whole area. All right, good luck on your test.